settled down, was wanting to get married, raise a large family, disappear into obscurity. And started off a small business. And I was happy, went where I wanted to go, paid my bills, things were fine. 93, I got a little enthusiastic, filed a patent in telecommunications, one of those items that could be a $1 to $3 million a day generator. Had a national press release out of Washington, let everyone know where I was. Following month, I had the rug pulled out from my life. Had my children attacked. Firstborn child I haven't seen for 3 years. I've had the abuse dangled in front of me every single day. My son, who Steve Forak is graciously looking after today, when he was 5 months old, I had him grabbed out of my arms by armed force. 5 cops, 2 detectives, effectively kidnapped. I went full steam there for 2.5 months, got him back, found an honest judge here in Maricopa County.
Which one?
Judge Mundell, Barbara Mundell. Picking my son down in Yuma. He was in bad shape, now he's in good shape. But I saw what was going on in Prescott, and I asked myself, what allows these local pissants from the judiciary and politica of Prescott, Arizona, to conduct themselves as an organized crime syndicate with no fear or consequence or liability whatsoever for their conduct, with a fix being right into the governor's office. I said to myself, the comprehensive annual financial report, the only reason they do what they do on the lower level is because everybody above them has their hands deeper in the pockets. And I said, it's time to cut the head off the corruption, cut the head off the body guys. On June 8th of '98, I went to war. And I said, it's time to wake up the American public to basic, fundamental reality, which has been held back from them for 65 years. What are the total cash gross receipts? What are the total investments from all operations? What is the net worth of all operations? And very important, what is the growth? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. All 4 issues extremely condemning when you look at the basic fundamentals. Now, I started on June 8th of '98. I've done probably about 130 radio programs. I've reached over 35 million people on those shows. There's about 20 feature editorials now out on my work. Syndicated media is still 100% blackout. When I learned about this 10 years ago, as I mentioned, I was a commodity trading advisor. I also was the national sales manager for the U.S. Trading Championship, U.S. Investing Championship, and Money Managers Verified Ratings for about 15 years. That was the first open competition for stock, option, and commodity traders in the country. They registered with us. We verified their performance under a set criteria for trading the account so they couldn't cheat. Then we would rank and publicize Barron's, Investors Daily, the Wall Street Journal. So I knew money and I knew attitudes of the players. But the syndicated media, I said to myself 10 years ago, why had I not heard one word of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report? Here is the Holy Grail, the Bible of government accounting. Never in print, never on the local TV show, radio show. I said, why? I was mad. I called the mailroom from the Department of Treasury that sent out the report. I wanted to know who it was sent to. I figured it was a short list. She goes, sir, it's too long to read it to you over the phone. I started qualifying. There were 3 different areas: education, media, and general. I found out that every editor of every primary paper was sent a copy each and every year. The CEO and every one of the directors from ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN were sent a copy each and every year. And they have been for 18 years. It was 10 years ago. I found out the deans of all of the colleges were sent a copy each and every year. You can see the steam coming off me. I'm seeing cooperative effort for non-disclosure here, or what I've entitled the biggest game in town. So my next step in a logical fashion, I said, what is the income of the syndicated media from composite government sources? If you break it down, indirectly or directly, the syndicated media is bringing in about 65% of their income from composite government sources. I'm going to qualify that in another area. Large corporations. I saw New Jersey state government, just state government, not the cities, the counties, and so just state government. They had $70 billion in common stock ownership. And it never dawned on me, government owning large quantities of equities. First time I thought about it. When I started looking at cities, counties, authorities, stock ownership in New Jersey, you're close to about probably close to 200 billion total equity. But composite government funds, there's 85,000 separate corporations. Your city is a corporation, your school district is a corporation, your county is a corporation, the state is a corporation, every one of the authorities is a corporation, each with their own investments, each with their own revenue, each with their own assets. 85,000. To jump to the chase, if you look at the composite totals of all, inclusive with federal government, standing liquid investment assets as a conservative figure is about $60 trillion. Okay? Most people, well, $60 trillion? They have a hard time fathoming this. But when you look at the composite totals, as I mentioned, 85,000 separate operations. City of Manhattan, 1.2 trillion. New York State, about 635 billion. City of Manhattan has more than the entire state does in their coffers. Okay? Separate operations. We have a runaway freight train. On my homepage, the bottom line is, after stating the 4 basic issues, total cash versus receipts, total investments, net worth, and growth, I said Gorbachev asked those 4 questions. You now know why he went Democratic. More control, more power. Very simply. What's happened in this country, and there's nothing wrong. I've been doing this now for 4 or 5, 6 years. And I've been in the Patriot community, I've talked to many of the people all over the country, and a lot of people say, oh, doomsday, oh, you can't solve this, it's so big. If you had a 12 and a 13-year-old boy, and you gave them carte blanche to write their own allowance check each week, and you made $1,200 a week, within no time, they would be cutting a check for $1,000 a week. And if you told them you were going to cut them back to $800 a week, they'd scream, they'd holler, they'd kick. They'd use any logic available to them to justify how a 12 and a 13-year-old boy could not survive on $800 a week. There is no difference here whatsoever. You have bigger boys and sharper players. And the other example I like to use is if the local bank left the vault door open over the weekend, front doors to the bank open, cash lying on the counter, you could have 1,000 people walk by. Some would say, there must be a problem here. Look, money's just lying out there. No one's guarding it. We better call the bank. Some would even go up and try to close the doors. A good chunk of people would stand up by the doors looking in saying, should we? All it takes is 5 out of 1,000 to walk by saying, hey, look at these crackers. They're all standing outside now taking the money. Look at those bozos from the bank. They left the doors open, video cameras turned off, no one guarding it. Let's grab the money. All it takes is 5 out of 1,000. The public has been letting those 5 out of 1,000 walk in the door last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. What do you expect? What needs to be done is for the public to get the biggest wake-up call of their life. Just slap themselves across the face and look at basic fundamentals. The reality of the obfuscation of the wealth by composite government. And people always say government. No. There are names, addresses, and people running the show. People have asked me, well, who's responsible for this? I said, well, it's the principle of operation. Well, which is the primary? Legislature. Legislature has passed most of the statutes that allow them to do exactly what they're doing. In Prescott last year, at the election, they wrote a statute, the city council submitted it as an initiative. We in the city council can enact into law something that has the effect of a statute, but we're not going to call it a statute. So we don't have to comply with disclosure, publication, and comment. Would you think the public would approve that? They did. They just gave carte blanche to the city council to do whatever the hell they felt like doing, with no accountability or disclosure. This is the age of entertainment. Everyone is glued to their TV sets, watching the entertainment as our families are being destroyed, our properties are being taken, as we are having our wealth liquidated right out of our pockets, as we're being entertained. As I mentioned, the syndicated media is in 100% partnership with composite government.
Amen.
I was doing a radio show for Tom Valentine, covered that point. 10 minutes later, a caller called in and said, "We've been trying to get our local paper to publish this information on some issue, and they refuse to do it." And Tom goes, "Well, it's so hard to get the the news media to do their job and, you know, report the facts." And I said, "Tom, I guess you didn't hear me. Syndicated media is in 100% partnership with composite government. They do an excellent job, exactly what they're supposed to be doing, being in 100% partnership with composite government." Point taken. All right, Arizona Republic. A couple of years ago, I did some spokespersonship for the militia of Arizona. Dave Diodavo and myself, they wanted to interview us. I had a copy of Arizona's 1994 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. I said, "Dave, any picture they take, I want you to hold this up to your chest. If they tell you to put it down, refuse to do so." I spoke to the reporter. 85% of my conversation was on the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and the combined financial takeover of the wealth from the citizens. The article comes out, 3.5 pages. Here's Dave, front page, Arizona Republic, color picture, okay, flag flying behind him. Arizona's Comprehensive Annual Financial Report being held up to his chest. Not one mention in the entire article. Now, I had briefed a friend of mine, Burien on this. He's an independent journalist in Phoenix. And Burien goes, "Well, I know that reporter. He's a good guy. He wouldn't block something out." I passed through on a conference call. And after the niceties, Burien goes, "Well, how can, here's Walter's friend holding the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report up to his chest. Walter spoke 85% of his time about it. How come not one mention?" He goes, "Well, I did mention it, but my editor cut it out. He didn't think it was important."
Of course not.
Then I cut in and I said, "Listen, there's a 100% blackout on the mentioning of the name of the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report." I said, "Ask around the newsroom." He calls out around the newsroom. He goes, "No, no one's ever heard of it." I said, "Ask your editor." He goes, "I did. He was standing right next to me. He said he never heard of it." I said, "Good. Do what I did a couple of months ago. Call the Auditor General's office, Department of Arizona. Confirm that your editor has been sent the report ever since he's been editor at that paper. And then after you confirm he knows what it is, ask him again. And this time when he says he never heard of it, you know he's lying straight to your face." "Well, why would my editor lie to me?" I said, "Your editor is briefed on the situation. This is a multi-trillion-dollar game. He's briefed on the situation just in case a cub reporter like yourself comes up with the difference between the cash gross receipts and the budgetary basis, or hears about the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report and says, 'I'm going to do a major feature on this.' They'll say, 'No, you're not. You're doing a story on butterflies in Argentina. Here's your plane ticket.'" Well, he did what I did. I asked him to do. In fact, I told him to tape the call when he called the mailroom, which he did. Never heard from him again, though. But it's the biggest game in town. It's the money. This is not the Joe Six-Pack crowd betting $5 on Dallas, okay? These guys have clawed their ways to the top. They played the political scandal route. They've done whatever they could to get into the position in government to build their own personal empires. If someone is honest, diligent,